The Curse of Black Bridge by Redford Ewing. This is kind of also how I think about game design when I come up with a game idea. You can really tell in Blueprints that they did the same thing. Welcome back everybody to day 42 here in Blueprints. It's been about 2 weeks since my last recording, I believe. I've been a bit busy with launching my primary channel. Why can I not walk? Oh, okay. Yes, I launched my primary channel where I develop a racing game. So that took a while to set up. But I'm back here in Blueprints. And we have the same goal as always, which would be the school if we manage to get the schoolhouse out here. Or otherwise we'll try to get the sanctum keys, but I only know where one of them is. And we're not getting the schoolhouse. What do I want? Actually, yeah, before I go too deep into that, I quickly want to see what the mechanical rooms are in the game. There's only 6 mechanical rooms: the utility closet, the boiler, the pump, security, workshop, lab, and the mechanarium. But that's only 7. Do I not need 8? I know, because I come in. Wait. So this is the mechanarium. So we come in here, and then I would assume... Okay, so we probably have doors on each side that lead to rooms, and then we have 4 side doors that lead to little spaces where something could be hiding behind. So in total we have 8 doors, but we enter through 1. So we need 7 mechanical rooms. Those include the 6 base ones plus the mechanarium. Okay, so we'll keep this open. We need to draft all of them, and then the mechanarium was super unlikely. Okay, then here I think I'm gonna go for the parlor to connect the foundation. Let's see, any blue text? No. The black box is false. A false box contains the gems. The black box is true. Okay, so these two are contradicting each other. So one of these ones has to be true and the other has to be false. That means this one could be true or false. Okay, let's say this is true. The black box is true. That means this is true. A false box contains the gems, which means the gems would be in here. If this one is false, that means this one would be true. That means this one would be... wait. This one is false. This is true. Then this one is false. Which means a true box contains the gems, which would also be the blue. So I think it has to be the blue. Yeah, because both solutions that I found pointed to the blue. Or no, I don't want to go for the weight room. I'm going to go for the aquarium. Gives me a star as well, right. Forgot about that. That opens this up. Okay. Were there always these stars in here? No, that's new, right? Oh, that's because we're getting stars. They added little cute SpongeBob Patricks, but in yellow. Nice. The fish are gone though. Oh, the fish are gone from this aquarium now. There was this big fish in here, I think. Yeah, okay. Cool. Less likely to find items, that's pretty bad. What is that, by the way? Is that a red room and the purple room? Oh, that's a red room with the negative punishment as well as a bedroom. That's why it's purple here. I get it, okay. So I'm in the security here. This door is security locked, this door is security locked, and I have the lifting room here, but we have even more security locked doors. I'm just completely locked out here. Yeah, no chance. So I thought we will have a look at the new clue book. Maybe we can figure out some more things that we need to know. Okay, let's look at this again in detail. It's written by our mom. We gifted it to the library. We have a detective here with some red markings, and it says Route 8 here. Obviously it's Route 8, because 8, right? All he needed was to find a new clue. If he found a new clue, he'd know what to do. If he knew what to do, he'd likely tell you, for you are looking for a new clue too. I won't be able to... Did I take a picture of this? Because I can't read it anymore. He had retraced his sketches and studied the files, reviewed all the cases, and gone through the piles of the evidence present and precedents evident. I like that sentence. And retraced his steps as it stretched on for miles. Okay, so yeah, we have these dead cases. Those are dead ends rooms, like the lavatory. And they're corner cases. Those always have a 90-degree exit. Some of them have a check mark. I don't know why. And then there's this here. Ah, here it is. I knew I took a freaking picture of that. Let's put this in here so it's in order. Suspect list. So we have a bunch of suspects, and that's the same list, I remember. They all have different ages. There was something about the suspect on these pages as well. So he had looked high and low in all of these rooms. Oh, these are the things with the numbers. He had looked high and low in all of the rooms. He had searched every corner in each of the tombs. In this particular case, he had checked every space. If he found any clue, he'd know what to do. Let's look at these numbers quickly. We have 11, 7, 10, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11. I can barely see the numbers. 1. Wait, maybe that spells something. All. Is there a 2? Can't seem to see a 2. I checked. Checked. Corner. Case. Where's 5? Rooms. 6. Had. 7. A8. Where's 8? Low. 9. Case. 10. Clue. Found. 12. Is there a 12? Freaking can't see anything. In. 13. Is there a 13? Oh, there. 14 rooms. I don't think there's a 15, right? All checked corner case rooms had a low case clue found in the rooms. What does that mean? All checked corner case rooms. What's a checked room? I mean, I know what a corner case room is now. But what's a checked corner case room? Does that just mean he checked the corner case room? So check doesn't actually matter. So just any corner case room, or all of them, are all checked. Oh, because they're checked. Wait. Here. Corner cases. So 4 of them are checked. Okay. Had a low case clue found in the rooms. Okay, so I need to go to these 4 rooms, the patio, the nook, the office, and the pantry, and I'll be able to find a low case clue. What is that? I mean, I know what lowercase is. Low case. Okay, I guess we just have to go visit those 4 rooms. The patio, the nook, the library, what was it again? And the parlor. I mean, these are pretty easy rooms. And then we'll see if we can find the low case clue. He looked and he looked under beds and in nooks. He questioned the maid. He questioned the cooks. It was already over when he spoke to the chauffeur, who told him new clues were found only in books. Huh. So tome after tome that the library loaned and the books that he had that he already owned were searched from their covers all the way through. If he found a new clue, he knew what to do. Yeah, okay, so he searched all the covers, but I don't know where I would know. Yeah, this is important. I just didn't understand this last time. He changed all the letters in the lines that he found. He checked all the colors of the spines that were bound. He doubled the meaning of each seasonal greeting and found that the diction of each word was sound. That is very important, but I don't get it. So I need to go through these books from the cover. So I'm assuming the cover maybe contains clues as well. Then I need to check the color. No, I need to go through all these books and I need to find lines and change those letters on those lines. I don't know which lines, I don't know which letters. And then I need to check the color of the spine of the book. Then I double the meaning. I mean, that probably makes sense once I get it. You double the meaning of each seasonal greeting. I don't know what a seasonal greeting is. It's like good autumn, but people don't say that. Dear winter, that's not what people say. What's a seasonal greeting? And found that the diction of each word was sound. So maybe you double the meaning, then some scrambled stuff comes out, but it actually makes sense. It's something about shifting stuff. I just don't get it, okay? He stayed up all night and studied the maps. He laid out the floor plans and measured the gaps. And if this directory was considered a trajectory, it was nothing short of a full mental lapse. So if this, I don't know. I don't freaking know. A man obsessed and Kuko too. Why is that in brackets? Really weird. They would say as he would wander through, the best medicine is not yet evidence. If he found a new clue, he'd know what to do. Having secured over each cryptic lines, have you exhausted your search? Have you seen all the signs? So there's a lot about sound as well. The diction of each word was sound. Then we have major here. Then we looked at this. And oh yeah, there's more about that. The suspect is minor. The suspect is minor. The suspect is major. Okay, what does that mean again? That means the suspect is minor is true, but the suspect is minor is also false. The suspect is a dot key. The suspect is major. So this says the suspect is minor and it's true. This says the suspect is minor. Minor, that's someone who mines. Okay, I just realized that it says minor and not. Okay, so the suspect is a minor, so under 21, I'm guessing, since it's an American game. He's not a minor. He doesn't work in a mine. The suspect is major is true. Or mayor. Is he the mayor? He's minor and the mayor, but not a minor? What the heck is a key? Give me the suspect list again. Where's the suspect list? That's not the suspect list. So who's minor? Richard Scott, Sandra Dillon, Boo Lee, Charles Riskel. That's it. Who is mayor? I have no idea. I mean, these are all too young to be mayor, no? Yeah, it's a rank officer in the army. I don't know what the suspect is. A key. Why is that connected to the suspect is a key? Like a key on the keyboard? Or it could be a key on the keyboard. That's why they show the terminals here. And these little dots here could be keys on the keyboard. What's a minor key? Oh, it could be... Does that mean I need to press a key? A specific key. But what's a minor key? Huh. Maybe, okay, so maybe this is about the red book and we have to go into page A, word X. Can't really read the beginning here anymore. Alright, so I'm a bit stuck on this book, so I decided to look up some of the solutions. Okay, I'm not going to look at the low case one yet, because I kind of know what to do. I need to find the 4 corner case rooms and find the low case. So I'm going to try to do that. We're not going to look at the solution yet. I am, however, stuck on the key suspect one. So I think that has to do with the computer key, I'm not sure. Or certainly with the suspect list. So let's see if we can get a hint at what to do here. On the final page, 22, is the note that says the suspect is a key. Yeah. There is also memos saying suspect is minor, suspect is minor, suspect is major on the drawing on page 6. There's Rose Barley, who's 50, Richard Scott, 12, Mayford, 32, some people. I get that, I know that. Using the memos, we know the suspect is a minor. So only the names of people who are not adults matter. I know that too. Another memo says the suspect is a major. Pairing this with the major note, we know it can be read differently in a Rajan. Ma means small and yor means name. Lore equals word, yor equals name. So that's Irajan? Lore equals word. Okay, interesting. So I need to start learning the language or what? How would I know that? Where does it ever say that? It's another one of these puzzles where you just have no idea if you know everything. So I think I need to know this language now, but I don't even know where I would learn that. So basically I can't solve this puzzle now unless I know the language, but I don't know where I learned this. So that's a bit annoying. Okay, so ma-yor means small name. Oh, they have a small name. So maybe Buli. Okay, the suspect is Buli. Then we take into account the suspect is a key. This can be both read as a key or admin key, which relates to the Blackbridge Grotto. Yeah, why does it say a.key? So that's the password. So the password is Boli. For Blackbridge admin codes, it will be the first 4 letters of the last name and the first letters of the first name. If you've been able to log into the terminal, there are 3 delisted admin codes. And one of these codes does not meet the standard length. Yeah, because, okay, yeah, Li is only 3. So do I type in Li B? And then I get in. Let's go check that. And then here assigning the titles, I'm assuming that has to do with the book titles. Let's first check the Blackbridge Grotto. I'm actually curious. Alright, here we are back. Day 43 in Blueprints. 8 o'clock in the morning, as always. Let's grab the allowance and then check if we can enter Li B in the grotto. I don't know what that would help, because that would just allow us to log in, and we were already able to log in, no? We're still missing, yeah, we're still missing the, what is it called? The microchip here. Li B. Okay. That allows me to log in. I forgot what I can do here. I have to go through this again quickly. It's been too long. The timeout setting controls how long a computer terminal stays connected to the network without disconnecting from the server. Requires a new connection each time the user attempts... Okay, now let's leave this at 1 month. I think that's good. Electronic mail settings. These are all on. Check connection. Okay, connection has been disabled. User database. 3 additional delisted admin keys. Okay. Admin logs. Yeah, I think we read all of these. Data files, import trophy data. Yeah, not that important. Okay, that's not very useful, wow. That just gives me another key to enter here, great. So that was completely useless or what? Oh, we still have this, what was that again? Don't remember what that we still haven't figured out what that is. Interesting. Okay, so I'm assuming we need the 3rd microchip to continue on here. Well, great. Let's quickly check the West Room's door options. Alright. What are we getting? The schoolhouse. Alright, so I think we're gonna try to do the school exam then today. Yeah, let's try. And then we'll go back to the new clue book and try to figure out the other... Oh no, while we are trying to do the schools now, we can also try to do the low case, corner case thing. And then we'll go back to the new clue book and we'll see... Ah, I shouldn't have entered, just realized. And we'll see if we can solve this other puzzle about the books. Not sure. Okay, let's go the usual path. I think I'm gonna go for the library first. We're getting a book here that I ordered. The Curse of Black Bridge by Redford Ewing. Okay. Forward. The legend of Blackbridge is one that's well known to the people of the Grand Realm, for versions of this tale have been passed down from generation to generation. With each new telling, the story has changed, becoming, over the years, more colorful, more verbose, and, as one might expect, increasingly horrifying. However, with so many renditions and unique personal touches, the task of confining and binding this tale to text seemed an ambitious and impossible challenge. Over the course of my research, I have heard dozens of variations of the legend, and while the details will often change, I was surprised how much of the story's heart remained the same. Yet the more I listened, the clearer it became that there could never be a definite version of this tale capable of capturing all the wonder and myth of Blackbridge. In the end, I chose to write down what felt most authentic, the story my grandmother told me as a boy long ago. Part 1. The Berry Picker from Oris. Huh. So that's what the symbol is about. It's about the berry picker. So this is the Berry Picker from Oris. Many years ago, before peace had become a familiar word, there lived a group of rogues, so wayward that the locals deemed it appropriate to call their number the Unholy Hounds. They were feral outlaws composed of society's worst in a time when society was at its worst, and for each crime that fearful travelers credited to the group, a dozen more lay unclaimed, each worse than the last. For the gentry, however, who often value their coffers more than their companions, no crime could measure more wicked than the group's primary enterprise, high road robbery. One such member of this so-called band of rogues was a boy of 13 years, Jasper, who had not been lucky in life, having lost 2 brothers to war and parents to famine. In the years of hunger that followed, Jasper lived in a gutter behind a churchyard, relying on the nourishment of scurrying bugs and weeds harvested from the cracks of the alleyway to sustain his pitiful existence. It is not surprising that a child aiming to escape such hardships would take an easy road out. An easy and well-traveled road, paved with temptations, leading out of the city and into the gentry lands, where loose purse strings entwine with the strands of salvation and glisten equally with the hope of opportunity. It was his road that eventually led Jasper to the end of his youth, a hidden cave at the bottom of Black Bridge Canyon. It was here that he met his surrogate family and saviors, that notorious gang of godless outlaws known as the Unholy Hounds. Where's my cursor? Here. Despite the hardened circumstances that had led him to this vocation of banditry, Jasper was surprisingly tender-hearted and was often teased by the group for being too kind for such an ignoble life. For this reason, Jasper was assigned the innocent role of berry picker. It was not just innocence that set berry picking apart from the gang's more wicked undertakings, for it was the only duty performed without the safety of night's concealment. Jasper, no stranger to solitude, did not protest that he alone worked while the others slept soundly, tucked away in the cave at the bottom of Black Bridge Canyon. On one such occasion, Jasper decided to get an early start. He left the cave, berry basket in hand, and set out into the woods before the morning sun had even brushed against the tallest treetops. It was colder in the mornings, but the headway dawn afforded meant Jasper could reach the furthermost berry patches without worry of being chastised for tarrying upon his return. What's chastised? So it's like punishment, okay? It took over 3 hours on foot to reach his destination, and along the way Jasper had passed by many familiar bush, all priorly pillaged and so bereft of berries that one would have to dedicate several moments in earnest examination before finding a single one. Okay, so he probably goes out every day collecting these berries, that's why he has to go further and further. Jasper was patient, but even patience has its limits. He was confident that even accounting for the time lost to his long stretch of travel, his efforts would be well worth the pains. Surveying the patches in his new grove surprised even Jasper. The red dots suspended among the leaves seemed as numerous as stars in the skies. Upon seeing such a bounteous sight, he clutched his berry basket tightly and nearly toppled over out of joy. Once he had regained his senses, Jasper quickly made a decision. He would not reveal the location of this newfound treasure. Instead, he would earn the respect of his confederates, who, upon seeing his yield, might attribute the success to hard work. Smiling at his plan, Jasper set off to fill his basket and was making steady strides in this task when the sound of thundering hooves interrupted him. Keep losing my cursor. A carriage is approaching. The thought of it made Jasper freeze. Had he been so enchanted by his discovery that he had neglected to observe his surroundings? How could a roadway be so close? He tacked down and crept towards the impeding sound, hiding behind one of the larger bushes nearby. It was only a moment more before the sound's source revealed itself. Within 50 paces of where Jasper hid, an elegant carriage with gold trim came soaring around a corner of trees, led by 2 beautiful white horses and conveyed by a stern-looking driver seated atop the vehicle, flaunting the most sophisticated regalia Jasper had ever seen. It was not just any carriage, it was a royal carriage. Even without ever having witnessed such a sight before, Jasper was certain. The sight had so transfixed Jasper that he stood awestruck, unable to tear away as the carriage approached. The little concealment the bush provided was soon proven unequal to the driver's lofty perch, and upon spotting the boy, he pulled the reins with such effect that the noble steeds slid to a sudden halt with precise control. "You boy, get out from behind that bush," he shouted with a rigidity that betrayed a modest amount of fear. "You startled me half to death coming round the bend of my own drive, and me seeing such an unfamiliar face in a place where there ought not to be any face." The language is a bit difficult to read sometimes. Jasper quickly contemplated running. The man was much older, and his dress was suitable for courtly behavior, not dashing through the bramble and mud. I was picking berries." Jasper raised the half-filled basket up to allow the driver to see the proof of his words. The demeanor of the man suddenly changed. It was a change that Jesper was familiar with. He had many times seen the same stern expression on the most fiendish bandits melt away when presented with a berry basket. So he's gonna say it's their berries and they want the basket? That would be stupid, come on. Any suspicions that the driver might have had instantly evaporated, for even the notion of a member of the Unholy Hounds picking berries seemed farcical. What? Farcical. What does that mean? Relating to or resembling farce. Because it's absurd or ridiculous, okay? The softened expression even made allowances for a smile. Berries, eh? Say you couldn't have picked a better spot for them, could you? I used to pick berries here as a boy. Jesper took his cue to finally step forward out from behind the bush, proudly brandishing his basket. I know, and what luck I found them. I have only just begun picking, and look how many I have. It would have taken me the time back home to procure this number. Yeah, where is your home? I was just thinking about the same. Don't say anything about your home. The driver bent down for a closer look. And where is your home, boy? It must be quite far. Jesper replied with a scripted response, a little south of Tennefolk, just past the burnt woods. My God, that is far. You couldn't have come all that way only this morning. It was true, Tennefolk was in the exact opposite direction that Jesper had travelled, and while that response would have seemed perfectly reasonable in a location closer to Black Bridge Canyon, he could see why it might seem less believable here. Sir, I have travelled much farther for much less profit. I dare say there is no distance yet made by a man that would not be worth undertaking for a price such as these. Surely you have tasted them for yourself. Jesper felt happier with this response, as it seemed to amplify the man's smile. In my youth often, but perhaps I took it for granted because I never had to travel very far. And even then, my father would always drive us here in our carriage, so I'm ashamed I never had to walk such a stretch to earn an equal reward. It was Jesper's time to smile. Then let my efforts reward us both today. He raised the basket even higher. A taste in memory of your youth, sir. I hope he's not revealing anything under his clothing here that would reveal that he is one of those bandits. The driver chuckled and removed one glove, bending over the seat to reach down to the basket. At the moment his fingers touched the first berry, the daggers in turn met his throat, cutting through a superficial layer of skin and drawing blood. What? So he grabbed the berries and then a dagger? Did Jesper kill him? What? Jesper caught the man's startled eyes, and for that taste I will have your purse, sir, in memory of my youth. No way. The driver's arm had gone stiff, his chin raised and trembling, more frightened than he had ever been before. Whether unable or incapable of speaking, he did not respond to the boy. Perhaps he did not think his jaw could afford to be engaged at this particular time. Jesper let the basket drop, freeing his other hand to probe the man's pockets. Do not mistake me, sir. I will not kill you if you give me no cause, though I will admit the thought of taking your carriage and leaving you the indignity of walking appeals to me. Unable to find a purse in the man's coat, Jesper pivoted to search the seat under him. Why have you no purse upon your person? The driver slowly raised his hand cautiously, pointing towards the carriage door behind him. Jesper lowered the knife edge a small degree to allow the man to speak, which he didn't turn softly. There's a lockbox in the carriage. Could be a trick. Well, come down then and grant me the courtesy of sparing your life and binding your hands. A concession, I assure you, of my tender heart, for it would be much easier to slit your throat. The man started to comply, slowly lowering himself from the driver's seat of the carriage. Once down, Jesper guided him away from the carriage to a nearby tree, where he instructed him to get on his knees and put his hands behind his back. Excusing his inexperience, the man indulged Jesper while he figured out how to adequately bind him. The smile and kindness Jesper had seen on this man's face, now nothing more than a distant memory. In their place, cold, dark eyes displaying no emotion. I wonder, should I grant you the same clemency you are showing me? Jesper stopped, surprised by the question, but ignored it, secured the final bindings, and then hastily returned to the carriage. With one hand on the door's handle, he turned back to the man. If there is no lockbox, there will be no clemency. Inside the carriage was surprisingly dusty and unswept, a stark contrast to the elegant and polished golden facade of the exterior. It had apparently been many years since a passenger had enjoyed passage in this vehicle. This all but confirmed what Jasper had suspected. The driver of this carriage was not a liveried servant in the employ of some greater master. Any curiosity that this observation might have further produced was quickly abandoned upon seeing what rested under the carriage's backseat, a large wooden lockbox. Despite its hefty appearance, the boy was surprisingly easy to handle. Within a few minutes, Jasper had dislodged it from its hold and carried it out into the sunlight. Inspecting the box carefully, 2 observations were made. Totemic symbols found carved on all 4 sides of the box hinted that the box was very old and likely not created by Orindian hands. It reminded him of artifacts from the old world and was presumably crafted in one of the ancient realms. Interesting. Secondly, the box was secured by a rusty yet robust padlock and would not open easily without a key. Jasper looked over to see the driver quietly observing from his indentured position. "Do you perhaps have a key you can provide me to open this box?" Without emotion, the driver replied, "There is no key to that box." Jasper stood up. Easy enough then. He headed over to the nearby rock of sizable dimension and lifted the stone up, carrying it back to the box. If there was ever a time when that lock had been resistant to brute force, it wasn't recent. With one hit, the stone had completely shattered the rusted lock. He bent back down and opened the lid. Inside was an effigy, a crude figure chiseled from stone. Without too much deliberation, Jasper bent down and picked it up, somewhat surprised how heavy it seemed given how light the box had felt. Having expected to find something more akin to gold or gems, he looked questioningly to the man, hoping to find an explanation. The driver's smile had once again returned. "You are cursed, boy, for deadly is the stone. You have opened that which should never have been opened, and you are cursed." Jasper carried the effigy over to the man and shoved it in front of its face. "What is it?" "That's 1. Feeling his disappointment rising to anger now, Jasper tightened his grip on the effigy. "1 what, you mumbling agenta? And in God's name, why have you no purse upon your person?" The man did not seem intimidated. 1 pace, he paused for effect. 12 more and you will be dead. He only had a second to flinch before the effigy struck him in the head and put an end to his cryptic ramblings. If there was ever a time when the old man had been resistant to brute force, it wasn't recent. Jasper looked down at the sculpted stone figure, now splattered red. Was it cursed? Was he cursed? He had of course heard stories of curses and had never doubted their validity in the past, but now that he was standing face to face with the possibility of being cursed, his mind pleaded with him to be skeptical. And if he was cursed, what difference would the knowledge make? A dozen more paces would not be enough to find another living soul. To say nothing of the chances of procuring remedy, if he did not move from where he now stood, he could live maybe another 3 or 4 days. Maybe more. Oh, so by paces they mean steps. Now I get it. So 12 steps and he's dead apparently. So if he did not move from where he now stood, he could live maybe another 3 or 4 days, maybe more given the abundance of berries nearby. A plan that, if we ignore its obvious faults, might provide additional opportunities for help to come along. But what good would that do to be discovered here? Beside a body, stolen goods in hand, bloated from berries, and raving about a curse that could very well not be real. No, it would most certainly be better to face one's fate now, take a dozen paces and see if life goes on. Whoa, but this guy had a sword, no? Here. That's blood, I'm assuming. Or is that the shadow? But Jasper found his legs unable to make that first step. His mind was unable to convince his limb to waste away 1/12 of his life in a single motion. Feeling the desperation sink in, he hopelessly looked about him for a solution. And if by some stroke of luck the gods had heard his plea, a miracle materialized before him as he found himself suddenly at the end of a fairy tale. 2 white horses and a carriage of golden trim were beside him, the answer to his immediate prayers. He laughed at his fortune and calculated the short number of paces back to the road. Yeah, because if he rides the horses, he's not going to take any paces, right? 4, perhaps only 3 if he jumped. He made a quick survey to see if there was anything he wished to grab before taking the plunge. He thought about removing the driver's fancy coat, as that appeared to be of some value, but the additional risk of undertaking such a task too great to chance. And so after a profound breath, he took his second, third and fourth steps, though they were quite large. Seated now behind the horses, he reached for the reins and suddenly realized that he was still gripping the effigy. If the curse was real, then it would most certainly be better left here. If on the other hand the story was fictitious, there might be some appraisal that could be made of the figure. It was, after all, found within a lockbox whose typical function oft secures objects of value. Having witnessed firsthand the horrors of destitution, Jasper found his mind equally reluctant to allow his hand let go. If it is cursed, I die. If not today, then tomorrow. And if I die, what care have I? And with that statement said aloud to the horses seemingly, Jasper took up the reins with confidence. Part 2, Below the Black Bridge. That's a long-ass book, holy cow. I'm gonna get a cup of tea. Some fresh chamomile tea. All right, let's read on. Part 2, Below the Black Bridge. Miller awoke to some light nudging from a familiar foot. Wait, what? This is a different character now. Only one person would have the cheek to awaken her in such ill-mannered fashion. Shaking the sleep from her eyes, she glared up at him in the darkness, but did not say a word. He nudged her again, teasingly, then stepped back into the dim. After taking a moment for her eyes to adjust to the darkness of the cave, Miller remembered. She was on third watch today. So are we back at the bandits now? Well, it said below the Black Bridge, so probably. Quietly collecting her things and wits, Miller turned as she left, waving to her young friend who was more than likely already asleep. She crept through the cavern's main passage, careful to not wake the sleeping bandits around her. Like a hero in a book, she often mused. Quietly she grabbed a bow from the haphazard formed pile of weapons, shaking the accompanying quiver in the darkness to assess how many arrows it held. She then walked towards the sun-drenched mouth of the cavern, ready to start her shift. It's very visual the way it's written. It's quite good. I like it when people use a bit more complicated language, because generally language just tends to become like simpler over time. Like we lose complicated words and language becomes more simple and more basic. So I like it when people in their creative work try to use a bit more complicated language to bring that back a little bit. Kind of makes people think a little bit more, at least. And whoever doesn't want to like read complicated text is just going to be filtered out anyway, so they can go and speak their basic stuff. That's fine. Above her, in one of the few trees found in the canyon, Miller could see that Ravia was already posted. So that's a different person, I'm guessing. She waved and Ravia waved back. Calling out to each other was strictly forbidden. Anything louder than a gesture in the canyon was forbidden. When Miller reached the tree, Ravia lowered a braided rope and pointed to the ground behind her. Miller returned, following the finger, and saw a pail of water resting beside a nearby log. She turned back to Ravia, nodded and secured the pail of the rope. The pail went up first, and in turn Miller followed. Ravia reached across to grab the water. Miller leaned back to give her space. There was not much room for maneuvering in this tree post, a necessary concession for the concealment the outpost demanded. Ravia tilted the pail up to her mouth dramatically, illustrating how thirsty she had been. Miller laughed silently as water poured out, splashing onto Ravia's face. It was a bit too daring and noisy of a joke, and had the others been around, they would have certainly been scolded for the unwarranted sound. But Miller appreciated the efforts Ravia took to verbalize the silence of the morning. They had been on third watch together for over a month, and during that speechless time, their friendship had grown into something special. Affection was unsurprisingly scarce among the unholy hounds. She had felt camaraderie before, of course, but intimacy never. From their elevated vantage, the girls could see both the concealed entrance of the cavern as well as the clear view of the bridge that spanned across the canyon. Black Bridge was the link between the Gentry lands and the northern mountains, the overpass that connected Orris and Reddington. To the city-faring travelers of the realm, the bridge was an unavoidable crossing. In the day, the task was to ensure that the travelers passed by without stopping. At night, the task was to ensure that they do stop. Okay. Like most of her band, Miller preferred the night. The biting glare of the sun might be tolerable to farmhands and bricklayers, but to a cavern-housed bandit, it was a source of constant annoyance. In the day, there was no shroud to conceal her expression, nor to hide her thoughts. She felt exposed. Ravia touched her elbow and pointed up. Miller, striving to suppress a budding smile, subtly shook her head in response. There were many signs that the unholy hounds used in lieu of words, but the two of them had developed an extended vocabulary, gestures quietly forged in the shared solitude of their month among the branches. She watched as Ravia shifted, placing her palms flat on the floorboards beneath them. Miller knew what she was trying to say, but shook her head a second time. It was often more fun to pretend not to understand. Ravia rolled her eyes and turned away, looking back to the canyon. Squinting through the leaves, the two girls held still, watching and listening. It was not long until Miller, too, heard the sound of approach. Ravia held up two bent fingers, and a few moments later, two men emerged from the bridge's southern end. They were dressed in a familiar uniform. Long grey coats with black facings, white waistcoats, and black tricorn hats. They belonged to the local patrol, the Black Guard. Although not an everyday occurrence, their presence at Black Bridge wasn't an unusual sight. It typically indicated an important traveler's impeding passage across the bridge. Information that the girls would promptly relay to their leaders as soon as the coast was clear. But this report, while exciting, was rarely acted upon. In Miller's 5 years in the Unholy Hounds, she had never once seen a carriage taken in open daylight when the Black Guard was nearby. Okay, so the Black Guard is patrolling on the bridge, but if they always capture people on the bridge, isn't that super suspicious? The men had nearly reached the bridge's north end when Miller heard the horses faintly at first, but growling louder with each passing moment. Ravia's eyes met Miller's, the same concern mirrored in each other's expression. This did not sound like the typical carriage, cautiously approaching the bridge to the cross. Instead of the familiar crunch of the high road's gravel, they heard the harsh clattering of hoofbeats against stone. Both girls quickly redirected their attention downwards, looking through the foliage. The sounds were not coming from the high road, but from the canyon itself. The horses were coming from below the bridge. In an instant, Miller had nooked an arrow and drawn her bow. Go! Ravia was gone before the whisper had even left Miller's mouth. The young scout was already sliding down the bank below, racing towards the cave. There was no road that ran below the canyon. There was no reason for numerous horses to be approaching the cave. There was only one reasonable conclusion, and both girls had reached it instantly. The base had been compromised. This was a Black Guard attack. Cheers. The moment the horses came into view, Miller let loose her first arrow. She was surprised to see a carriage. She had expected cavalry. Before she even finished processing that thought, her second arrow was in the air. Without a trail, it would be unthinkable for a carriage to traverse such rough terrain, yet she watched as the wheels jolted over the rocky riverbed. It could be our jester dude, right, who stole the carriage and doesn't want to travel on the road anymore. A third arrow was now in flight, and there would be no need for a fourth. The driver slumped over just moments before the vehicle dipped into a small ditch, slamming into an embankment. The force of this sudden halt immediately shattered the front two wheels and catapulted the driver from his seat. Utterly confused now, Miller quickly glanced over her shoulder to see if any horses were also approaching from the rear. Down in the canyon, the entire horde of the Unholy Hounds came spilling forth from the earth as if hell itself had suddenly sprung open. The ground seemed even more bewildered than Miller, half asleep and tripping over one another in a desperate attempt to engage an unseen enemy in combat. Miller could see Ravia among their number, the only one looking up at her. Her expression was chilling. There would be no need for a silent gesture to convey what they both now realized. They had made a mistake. Okay, so they attacked the carriage, killed the driver, then people came out of the carriage, and they were bewildered and half asleep, tripping over each other. So were they drunk? The gang's chieftain, Geoffrey Heartslasher, what the heck is that name? Heartslasher? Led the others, cautiously approaching the crashed carriage like a suspicious fox would near a baited trap. There were no words exchanged as the group crept forward in customary silence. A dozen or so paces in front of the wreckage lay the four-flung driver, an arrow protruding from his broken body, and beside him a blood-stained effigy carved from stone. Oh, the entire horde of the Unholy Hounds came spilling. Oh, the Unholy Hounds came and they were sleepy. Okay, I thought people came out of the carriage. Okay, that was wrong. But how did she hit him in the back? The arrow passes through from the back. I thought the carriage was approaching them. Weird. Miller was inconsolable. Jasper had always been her favorite. He had always shadowed her in the night, clinging to her, the hems of her every move, the way a child tails behind an older sibling. Tender-hearted, she had always called him, though deep down she had known that wasn't quite true. Oh, so she called him tender-hearted, okay. His appearance of gentleness concealed a raw, resilient durability that emerged in the most perilous of situations. He had been a flower among the nettles of this cave, but he still had thorns, honed by a grim past and 100 hands of misfortune. They buried him in the darkness in the back of one of the larger cavern rooms. He was interred with a berry basket and a silk handkerchief that he had treasured. The mysterious effigy they had found beside him served as a distinguished gravestone, a marker that stood out as somewhat special among the rows of similar swords marking neighboring plots. No one spoke, not even in whispers. There was nothing to say. Oh, interesting. Look. Wait, where's my cursor? Here. Here's my cursor. So there's all these swords marking graves. We have this effigy in the middle here. And here we have the... isn't that the symbol of the Black Realm that was pushed back to the east? I think so, no? Miller woke the next day to a thunderous shaking and rattling of the earth, a far cry from the playful nudging of the previous day. She strained to adjust her eyes, but the choking sting of stirred-up dust caused her to flinch. Panic was also in the air. The sounds of scurried footsteps and clattering feet filled the space around her. But even in alarm, the silence was louder. What was it that sounded so strange? Miller closed her eyes tight and used her feet to guide her along the passage. The whispers around her were getting louder, and intense voices could be heard ahead, louder speech than she had ever spoken in the canyon. A growing dread grew as Miller approached the mouth of the cave, her eyes now open wide despite the dust. Shouldn't it be day? Miller felt a hand in the darkness, pulling at her. It was Ravia. The two embraced, and Miller did not need to see her to understand. Ravia placed two bent fingers against Miller's cheek, and with that touch against her face, Miller felt the same thinking feeling from the previous day. Two bent fingers confirmed what Miller had suspected. The girls had forgotten to relay one critical piece of information to the others. An hour or so later, the screams began. Blood-curdling cries of hopeless desperation. Captain Fodrick Lee of the Black Guard looked down from the ridge of the canyon to the collapsed entrance of the cave. Ah, he grinned, now they speak. Okay, so that's the end of the book. So they buried the canyon. That's the end of the story. It's a pretty dark story. Everyone got buried in there alive with the effigy, I guess. So this is the Black Guard. And isn't this the symbol of the Black Place? Let me check. Yeah, the Isles of Orsay have this symbol, and that's the Black Place. And I'm guessing the bridge is somewhere here. Right? I don't know for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a cool story, but I'm not sure what that helps in the grand scheme of things. I guess there is some information that we can get from that I'm not seeing right now, but that's okay. All right, I quickly wanted to pause here and reflect on the story that I just read, and you can check out my great face up there. It looks kind of hilarious for a second. Anyways, I really like the story, especially that they chose to use more complicated terminology. So as you noticed, I had to look up a bunch of the words that I didn't understand. So for a lot of people, that might be a bit frustrating. But I think if you have a player who is open to engage with the medium, I think it's okay to do that, even if they don't speak the language natively, because they will be open to look these things up or to further engage with the medium, which is, I think, the best thing you can hope for as a designer. And I think most people that play the game to this point are going to be quite engaged, otherwise they probably would have dropped out at reaching room 46. So I think that was quite all right. I don't think it was too complicated. A lot of people would probably say they don't like it. He should have chosen simpler terminology. But that is generally the trend anyways with all languages and all craft, right? We try to simplify everything, and that just happens naturally over the course of time. Like if you see how languages, for example, evolve from each other, you can see that every evolving language just tends to be simpler than the one that preceded it. And just today I had an interesting oops, we're going to look at that afterwards. Just today I had an interesting discussion at lunch over crochet, which is the act of stitching together yarn to make clothing, pieces of clothing, right? And in that craft you have these patterns, which is kind of like a visual language of how you have to stitch together yarn to form a full piece of clothing. And apparently they're facing the same issue in that group because these patterns seem to become simpler and simpler over time, because there seem to be more beginners maybe in crochet. So the patterns become more simple, so everyone can do them, but that is a problem for the more experienced people because they're not too interested in these simple patterns, right? It's quite boring to do simple craft. So also if you read a children's book, like, oh, the pig woke up, the sun was shining, the pig ate an apple and went to sleep. Yeah, great story. It's just not that interesting. Maybe if you have nice pictures, that's interesting for a child, I guess. But what people often wanted apparently was more complicated patterns, which are apparently hard to find. And on top of that, many patterns that you find lack attention to detail. So as you can see here in this craft, you would stitch together these pieces of clothing like one row at a time, like to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, right? And in the end, you best hope that these lines kind of match up. Like you need the same amount of knots that then you can tie together somehow. I mean, I don't crochet, I don't know exactly. But apparently often these patterns don't line up, right? And the creator of the pattern would just be like, yeah, you know, you just kind of have to make it work somehow. And I get it, like that would be super frustrating. Like, come on, you made this pattern, like at least put some effort into it, right? And that's what I appreciate about the story that we just read. It felt like a coherent piece. There was complex terminology, but it was not too much. It felt good. And I also want to tie this to the game I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that I'm currently developing and sharing the development on my main channel. It's a racing game, which seems like a pretty cold genre, I guess. You know, you just race, you press gas, you steer a bit, and then you reach the finish line, right? That's kind of usually what racing games are about. But I always strive to make games more meaningful, more thoughtful. So when I develop games, I often start with something that I call a terminology map, which is what you're seeing right here. Which is when I try very early on to come up with terminology or a theme that runs through the entire game, so that it elevates the game to a next level. So I don't just have to say, oh, it's a racing game where you try to cross the finish line fast, because that sounds pretty boring. So I quickly want to go through over a couple terms here to give you a sense of an idea of what I mean. So keep in mind that this is a racing game, right? But in reality, it's really a metaphor for life. It's a metaphor for, like, all of us are going through our daily lives and we encounter problems that we have to solve, or we can ignore them. But many things that we try will fail, and we might try again, and we have to probably try again while keeping in mind that we already failed. So we always have these doubts in our mind about our failures, and we still try to make it work. And that's kind of the theme that runs through the game, and I try to articulate that here in this terminology map by using a bit more complicated terminology, so that it seems like, I mean, it doesn't even seem like it. I actually put a lot of thought into that. But if someone plays the game, they will think, oh, someone actually put thought into that, right? Just like I'm thinking that someone really thought about the story that we just read, because someone did think about it. You don't just come up with a story like that out of nowhere. So here, this green part in my game will be an overworld. That's a pretty generic term. Maybe I'll find something better for that. And what you will do is you will explore in that overworld, and then you will find races that you can enter. But I don't just call them races. To me, these are trials, like a trial in your life, like an issue that needs to be resolved. And the player can choose to confront those trials. And when they do, they will have a moment of poise, which is almost like a meditation where they can take a break for a second, take a breath, and then the race begins. And instead of just racing, I call it trying, because you never really know the outcome of you trying to resolve an issue, right? You might fail. So this is what I call trying, because we need to have the expectation or the assumption that we might not succeed, which I think is a very healthy outlook on life. But then if we do cross the finish line, that's what I call to reach a resolution. Because the race symbolizes a problem or an issue, and by reaching the finish line, you have reached a resolution, and the trial, the issue has been resolved, and then you emerge from the trial back into your regular life, where you can then go about your life until you choose to engage or confront the next trial again. So this is kind of also how I think about game design when I come up with a game idea. And I appreciate, like, you can really tell in Blueprints that they did the same thing with all the different room names, with all these different terms. Like, there's so many times where I have to look up things because I don't know what things mean. That's because they really try to go out of their way and come up with interesting names for things. Yes, I think that's everything. Let's get back to the video. Okay, so yeah, I forgot actually what we were trying to do, but we do need to try to get all the classrooms. And I think I'm going to start with that now, even though I only have 2 gems, but otherwise the other options weren't that great. Then here, we could do classroom to the left, but that costs me my last gem, so I think I'm going to redraw and see if we can get East Wing Hall, right? Why am I getting music? Why the heck am I getting music right now? What the heck? Then I'm probably just going to end here on a storeroom to get the dead end out of the way. The heck, why is there music? I'm so confused. Okay, then straight right. We could do the pantry, and then we could try to see what that clue is about, because there should be a low-case clue in here. Probably on here. Everything is written in capital letters, except bridge. So maybe bridge is the clue. There's nothing else lowercase. Lux. And now I wonder if Lux is also like an Iraja word. Okay, straight left. Maybe I'll do the den here so we can connect to the foundation. Although it's not that important, I think. So I think I'm going to draft the dead end, yeah. And then we'll go back. That gives us a gem, which is essential. We do need to get enough, like that was the tricky part last time. Now the music stopped again. Really weird. No, music's back, okay. We could do a boudoir here to get 2 redraws. And it gives us a gem as well. I think that's pretty good. But then before we enter, we check what we can get here. We could go for the classroom. I think that makes sense, actually. Or the reading nook to get the key. Maybe we'll try to get the key first. Or we... let's do spare room. Okay, let's do spare room. And then we'll go here. And we'll get the dice. And the gem. And we'll try to go to the left here. Which we cannot do. But we can craft a dead end. I think we're going to do that. Then we only have one path to continue. 1, 2, 3. 304 again. And the coupon booklet. Have we not had the 304 key yet? Okay. Then here we want to go to the left. We have to. Which we can do with the billiard room. Great. And then the problem is we need to go straight. And that could be tricky. Okay, so 1 squared is 1, plus 3 is 4, minus 14 is minus 10. No. Oh, I forgot to square again. It's 9 minus 14 is minus 5. No? Wait. 1 squared is 1, plus 3 is 4. Aha, 16 is 2. Okay. Oof. 20. Minus 20 is 0. Minus 3 is minus 3. Divided by 3 is minus 1. Squared is minus 1. No, it's probably 1. Times 4 is 4. That's correct, okay. 10 times 10 is 100. Divided by 10 is 10. Divided by 10 is 1. Okay. Silver key leads to a door with many... leads to a room with many doors. Straight. We have to go straight now. And we can do that with a chapel. Great. Let's do that. Then here, we want to go straight left. Which we can do with a classroom or with a parlor. Might go for parlor first to get more gems. Hopefully we can do that actually and not screw it up. And then in here we should also get a clue, a lowercase clue, right? Well... this is all uppercase. Well... this is all lowercase. Is there anything else? Doesn't seem like it. Is there anything behind here? There's certainly space behind the painting, but okay. There are 2 true statements. The gems are in a box with a false statement. There is only 1 true statement. So this one says there's only 1 true statement. This one says there are 2 true statements. So either one of those is false. So is it either 1 or 2? Well, That's obvious, yeah. The gems are in a box with a false statement. That means it needs to be clear which one is false. There can only be one false one. So if that's true, then this one has to be true too. Then that's false, the blue one. That means it would be in the blue one. If that's false, that means the gems are in the box with a true statement. This is the only true statement. This could be true, and this could be false. And this would be false. Then it would also be in the blue one. I think it's the blue one. Oh. The moment I opened it, I wasn't sure anymore, but yeah, okay. I've never actually looked at the firewood. So if we look at our Word document here, all checked corner case rooms had a low case clue found in the rooms. Oh, the parlor has no check mark. Oh, I thought the parlor has a check mark. So we're missing office, nook, and patio. Okay, to the right, please. That means we probably need to go for the corridor and then hope to go right. Could do that with a hallway, which is not great. But at least a decent choice. And now classroom? Or we do den to get extra walkway. I think that's good as well. Good. Then here we can go for classroom. But we soon need more keys. Here we can go for classroom as well. Which leads to the left. Sure. And then here to the right would be good. We can't do that with a classroom, so let's redraw and hope for something to the right. Like a bedroom, okay. But then we go back first and we try to move on through here. The foundation. So to the right here. Or we do a garage for extra keys. Maybe we'll do that actually. At least we should have enough keys, I hope. Okay. The car keys, wow. Well, we could now go back potentially. I don't really want to do it. I think we'll just move on here. And maybe classroom again, so that we can start like moving on. But we do need more options soon. It's grade 4. We need to get to grade 8. That's pretty crazy. We need options. So here I'm going to use the special key, I think, to get more options. Otherwise, I can already see myself getting locked in. Well, Rotunda would be cool, but I can't go for the mirror room because that would lock me in. I think I'm going to redraw. I'm going to redraw one more time. And then we'll think about this quickly. I do not have a single Mechanarium room, so this is not going to be of any help. But I might go for the dining room and then hope that I can go to the right somehow. So here to the right would be good. We're using a key. Well, classroom, great. Let's do that. Grade 5. But then let's first also check out these two options here. Ugh. Can go for a reading nook to the right, which gives us a key, which I think is okay. And in the reading nook there should be a clue, I think. Right? Has to be on here then. La 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 la. Having beside. So beside and bridge. We still missed the patio and the office. Okay. Okay. Alright, so here I would really take anything, even a dead end actually. Oh, I could rotate the floor plans here. I mean, it's not going to be of any use anyways. So I think I'm just going to go for library. I think. And then we can order another book. Oh, you can just press R to bring up the directory. I didn't even know that. We've read this. Realm and Rune. Curse of Blackbridge. Drafting Strategy, Volume 5. Let's go for that one. Okay, I think that's it then. For here. And we move on through here. We grab the apple. Which is red, of course. How many rooms? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th one. Okay. Well, we're running out of gems, so we need gems. Could go for classroom, which is quite alright here. Or courtyard, which also costs. So maybe classroom. And then we'll see what happens here. Okay, I'm gonna redraw. We need options. We could do passageway, but that costs us our last gems. So I'm not a big fan. Maybe if we're lucky we can get a classroom. Yeah, maybe we can force the classrooms now. Because this is 6, so this is 7. That means the next classroom is going to be the last one, I hope. This was the one I really didn't understand. I don't understand what these mean. Probably have to look that up. Yeah. Okay. Then here, last classroom. Come on. Let's try to force it. Yes. Don't tell me that's not the last one. What the heck? This is where we learn. This is where we learn the language. Ailor Nevdau Ulgo. The heck? And it's not the last classroom. Don't tell me there is 10 classrooms. That would be a pain. Irajan worksheet, translate the following phrases. Hello, can you teach me a new word? What the heck? Early Rajan did not use any verbs, so today the rare usage of verbs are comprised almost entirely of loan words and are mainly used to describe physical actions. Rajan vocabulary. Rajan affix. So an affix is something you put at the back, so a prefix and an affix. Orin Evanef, or what was the sentence called? Orin Omanef knew the state of. There was this, in the Sanctum, there's this clause, I can't really recall it. It's something, Ovadin Ovanef. Oriven Orinef. So maybe something about the old and then something about the new. Okay, interesting. I need to take a screenshot of that quickly. I just realized that here on the left it says prefix and here's suffix. So these are the ones you put before the word, and these are the ones here on the right that you put after the words. When paired with a verb can mean I will or I won't. Is there a little dot here? So that refers to this dot. And to this. When paired with a verb can mean I will or I won't. Similar to ul and lu. What's ul and lu? Aha, because this is el and le. These are like, oh, these are both backwards and forwards. That's interesting. So AJ, JA, right? So I only just see that these are mirrored. These are opposites as well. First, last, small, large, interesting. So there's patterns. So they're probably not even going to teach us all the prefixes and suffixes. They're probably just going to teach us the pattern here. And then we're going to have to make the rest up ourselves. Interesting. But here as well, array. Oh, I feel like the sense said novin nevarei or something. Future. I feel like this all sounds the same. Let's see if we can figure this out. Hello. Well, hello could be like new day. So nevdao or dao, no, nevdao could be hello, nevdao. That means new day. Is that hello? I think I need to look at what the children wrote here. A bit lost. Ailor. Ailor. What does that mean? First word. First word means hello? Okay, really? Has 4 out of 6 correct. Okay, how many say Ailor? Basically all of them. I mean, I would expect all of them to know how to say hello. Can you teach me a new word? Nevlor. New word. Nevlor. So Nevlor certainly means new word. I agree. Ulteach. Ah. Because they, as they said, they borrow the verbs from other languages. So ulteach means I will or I won't. Similar to ul. So me, teach. So hello, will teach me, new word. That sounds very correct to me. Ailor ult teach nevlor. So Ailor ult teach nevlor. That seems correct to me. This one is the same, okay. The large house is toward the east. Hevam ovet. Hevam of it. Hev, house. Large. So house large. I could be correct. Ovet is towards the east. Off towards of. But where is et? We don't have that. So et could be east. Hevam ovet. Let's see what the other ones wrote. Hevam of. Yeah, okay. Hevam ovet. They were all pretty. I mean, that's probably correct. So et is east. Pretty sure about that. Okay. Next one. I will swim at dawn. El swim nevdao. El swim nevdao. So swim, what's El? Me, I swim at dawn. Nev, new. Dao? New day. Yeah, that could be. I swim at new day. Sure. El swim nevdao. Yeah. What did the teacher say here? You should remember the erosion terms for these. El swim ajdao. Ajdao is like first word. I don't think that's correct. I think it's el swim nevdao. Then we have I won't read at night. Le read nai. Le. Oh, that's wrong. It's not le read, it's el read. Because that's a suffix. I think it's el read. What's nai? Night. Okay. Read le. A lack of myself. I won't read at night. Yeah, it's read le nai. That's correct. Read le nai. Yeah, makes sense. That, however, means, since this one has 3 and 4 wrong, that these two have to be correct, probably. The branches of the tree are old. Treivenven. What the heck? Or is that new? Venven. What's ven? Ven here, old. Old. The branches of the tree are old. Tree, old. That, I'm not sure. Tree, branch, ven. Tree, branch, but why is branch? Branch is a noun. Why would they use branch from the English vocabulary if branch is a noun? I don't think that's correct. It makes more sense because this one at least includes branch, whereas the other one just says tree old. This one at least says tree branch old. But branch? Acceptable. Ven tree ven. Old, tree old. Ha! So you can use a suffix by itself. And the branch, so a branch is just called an old tree. Or the end of, now I see it. When is the end of? So the end of tree is old, or tree end is old. I get it. Okay. So the correct here would be trevenven, meaning the tree ending, which is a branch, is old. Okay. Dude, this is weird. But it's cool. It's actually a cool idea. I like this. It's a cool idea. I also like how they included a noun here, branch, to confuse people with the noun-verb thing. The trunk of the tree is small. Man eftrei. Man eftrei. Ma... Nef. Ma nef. Tree. The start of. Small. Start of tree. So small branch. The trunk of the tree. Oh, the trunk is the nef tray. The start of the tree is the trunk, and that's small. So the ma nef tray. That sounds correct. Yeah. Ma nef tray. That's the start of the tree. The trunk of the tree is small. What the heck? Tray ma trunk. Tree. Trunk. That's a noun again. What's ma? Small. Tree, small trunk. Yeah, except trunk is a foreign word. They don't use that. Ma nef tray. That's correct as well. Okay, I think I got this. We're out of gems, so we need to scavenge for more gems. I thought this would have been the end here, but no. It continues on. What the hell? Okay, the problem is I need something good now. But what's good? This gives me more options at least. Wow. Dang it. Oh, so I locked myself in. Dang it, I thought there's only 8 classrooms. That would have made so much sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 10 or 9. That's so unfortunate. What do these mean? Ailor means hello. Nevdao means new day or dawn. And Ulgo, what does Ulgo mean? Huh? Ulgo. We don't know what that means. Okay. Yeah, I really have to be really careful with these classrooms. This is so annoying. You really need a lot of gems. Ah, man. You do want to start late with the classrooms so you can gather more gems, but by starting late you're going to get a lot more security locked doors as well as key doors. So you probably want a security as well and a key card as well so we can actually do this. Hell. We got the academic manor. Alright, that's it for today. Feel free to leave a like at the bottom if you've enjoyed today's storytelling session as well as our language course in Irajan, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to be here when the next episode airs. Until then, have a good time, take care, and bye.